It started off with Glinsk, the neighbouring parish, or half parish, taking out a book, pictorial. And I was so impressed by it that I thought, could we do that in Glenamaddy? And the first three of us was Mike Garvey, my brother, who became subsequent secretary, Manny Donlan, whose family were very loyal to the project, and myself, and the three of us sat down and said, yes, we could do that in Glenamaddy. We could do the same book, and it would be more difficult to do because we had a bigger population, but we were going to do it, and that was the decision. So we went to a parish meeting, and there were 39 of us at that. And that included people from Glinsk who talked about how they had done what they had done. And then the question was, were we going to do it? And out of it came the Glenamaddy Heritage Project that produced that book. And there were two goals in it. First of all, the details of the family, their history going back for 100 years, and the heritage of them, and of the stories, and of the areas. That was the development. And out of that, then we were to have a book. And it took us a lot longer than what we thought.
I came in from a bridge meeting one night, on Monday night, and my husband said to me, well, having a cup of tea and having a chat. He said, there was two of them in here looking for you. And I said, yeah, what they could have. And I said, he said, they're going doing a book, and they wanted to go through me. And I said, you would. And I said, why did you say you'd go yourself? But he didn't, I went to the room. Then we had a committee and we had no place to go. Anyway, we went from there to the community centre for a little while, and we were still looking for a room, and James Diamond, the principal of the community school, let us have a room in the parochial, what used to be the parochial house. We call it Convent House. And we had the room there. He gave us that room. He thought for a year, but we were still there 6 or 7 years after. And he was very generous to us, I would say. So now we have a home now, and but we haven't a bean, we haven't a penny. How can you do anything if you haven't a penny? So we have to start on fundraising. We have different events for fundraising. That week, I got our portfolio. We had to get out to the highways and the byways, getting all the information. I had a great time in Woodfield, and every house I went into, I had the tea and the biscuits and everything. But it was lovely, it was lovely. It was lovely meeting all the people, because you don't go into houses now like we used to want to. And it was lovely going into the houses, and even in that short time, the people that have gone, you know, from Woodfield. It's sad just to think back on it, you know. There was one lady, Mary Kate Rathstone, she was so good. She loved giving the stories of Woodfield and all that, and the news and everything. And it was so lovely going to the likes of Mary Kate and Frankie. She gave me so much information about it. And as Sean says, all the information we got, surely we put a book from here to Donegal, you know. And once you're started, you feel you have to go on. And like the editor, one man came in and he was going to edit it for us, but no way would he let us have the history of the people. He said, that's not on at all. I suppose you could see his point, because it did take up a lot of time and a lot of book. But then a new editor came in, Paddy, and he, you know, he went along with us, and he says if he cut it down to 100, maximum 100 words per family, the history of the people. So that's why there's just that much on the history of people.
We're really fortunate that Heather O'Dowd came on board, because Heather had been teaching here when he was a young fella and fancy free, and he could not believe all that the people of Glenamaddy used to get up to. The night that he came to discuss that he might be able to help, we didn't know any more than that. And then he announced that he had decided that he would be delighted to do the book. I've had so much fun, and I have so many great memories of my time at Glenamaddy, because they were the wild days, that's the way he was describing them, that I'd be happy to do this, and he did. We found him to be very encouraging, because, well, some people had been involved in producing books. Nothing like this, nobody had experienced anything like this. Anyway, Pat's contribution really, it's just another person who's contribution with that.
We have so many stories of the people of this area and every area around, and we each took the villages as they were, got people from the villages to focus on getting the information of all the houses in each village, and that didn't happen, and we were so dependent on Brid over here on my left, and she amalgamated so many different areas that never completed their own villages, and she put those together, and it was marvellous because the history in that book is a history for all times, and that's what we saw in that book, that it's there and it's in print and it will always be there for future generations.
I'm Brid Morgan, and I did go to that very first meeting, and I was interested, and I thought, oh yeah, it'd be nice to record the histories of the families, and I said, oh, I'll record my own townland, which is Sunna, just down the road there, and very small. I thought, oh yeah, it'd be great, I won't have too much to do. So it went on now, as the others have said, and I did my own townland, and thought, oh dear, I'm a bit done now, and anyways, as Sean was saying, it was very difficult to get information from some areas, so between one thing and another I got involved in that. So, and Pat Keaveney came on board, who's not here tonight, and also Patricia, I have to mention the two of them because they did a lot of work. But it turns out in the end that I suppose I proofread it, so I can be blamed for the mistakes, and
be complimented.
That's right, exactly. Complimented.
Yeah, and kind of put it together, and so I did a lot more than I thought I'd be doing. Pat Keaveney was great now, and he did all the maps on the computer, he did all those computer work, and he printed out maps for each town, and there at the beginning of each chapter, and he got some old information on computers, and he coordinated it all, and really made a wonderful job of the histories of the people in the townlands, because it wasn't just house number 1, Murphy and all that, and house number 2, whatever. So he worked really hard, and I'm sorry he isn't here now tonight to tell about his own part. And Patricia Keaveney then worked very, very hard on the town itself, which wasn't an easy task. It was a really difficult piece. And of course, Mary Brosnan, she was very involved too, very, very involved in the putting finishing touches and final proofreading and all that. So eventually we got it all together, and it was printed, and I must say I am very proud of it, in spite of mistakes here and there, but there's going to be mistakes and everything. I'm happy I did it.
I'm really here talking tonight because Tom Mannion unfortunately can't be with us tonight, and he has been with us through thick and thin since the very, very start, and he was the man that looked after our finances. It's because of him that we're actually here in this fabulous building at the moment, which will be the New Heritage Centre. And Tom was the man who looked after the finances all the time, so my job now is to summarise to some extent the kind of things that happened that kept our head above the water. It was really interesting. We started with no money at all, we had nothing at the start, and we were allowed to go in without being charged into the community centre just to get ourselves off the ground. And we were collecting information after the launch. We were collecting information for over a year before we had any kind of finances handled. Everybody did, as they continue to do over the whole 7 years, to do incredible work on a voluntary basis for the organisation. Like if you were to take out the voluntary effort, you'd really have nothing, and I know I can mention the people who did fund us in a few minutes, but that's been a very, very important part. All the people of the parish, it's just at different times sometimes when the heads were starting to dip under the pressure, they put their shoulders to the wheel. There were a few times where Brid was wondering, would she ever get information from such and such a townland, and suddenly somebody would come from lower and put the shoulder to the wheel, and she was off again, and eventually the whole 50 townlands were covered, which was really a great credit, because it was a huge. We started off thinking maybe we'd have 500 families that we'd have to gather information on. I won't give the figure, but it was well over 2,000 families. And no wonder, we thought we'd do it in about 2 years, and that it took us 7, it's no wonder. And even though maybe it took a lot out of some people, particularly at the book stage, I must say when the book was coming out, it was really hard going, because we were trying to juggle finances and so on. But under Tom's direction, it all fell together, and we succeeded in doing it. And we were delighted and chuffed that today people in the parish are so proud that we have this book, and it just all is worthwhile. That's it. And just to say how chuffed we were as well when we produced initially 1,000 books, and we were kind of a little bit fearful that maybe we might sell them. And the launch was in September, and by Christmas that 1,000 books was gone, and we had another 1,000 orders. And it's just been brilliant, the support. Now, what I just want to mention was, it's really interesting that we work totally collecting information and do nothing else for a year before anybody put their hand in the pocket, in their pocket, because we needed money for something. Then the credit union had told us they'd step up, and they did. And they said, I hear you're getting an office. And we did get an office from the community school. And we went in for a year, and we were there for 7. And they were so generous to us, because they never charged us a penny rent during that time. It was brilliant, and that man, Mr. Duigan, was a gentleman to deal with. And on top of that, when we got the computer in, and when we moved into the office, there were a whole lot of things that we needed to do when we had the computer, but we would not have been able to do them without the help of organisations, particularly like Galway County Council. There were numerous times where we needed advice, but most of all we needed money. And in case Marie Mellon sees this, we still haven't enough money, Marie. It goes on below. So keep an eye on us and give us a hand. But not alone have we to mention, in the same breath with Galway County Council, we have to mention Galway Rural Development. We were helped with people on schemes. The organisation could not have done what we did without the people who came on board for us under various different schemes organised by Galway Rural Development. And later on, when we needed funding for stuff we just could never afford to buy, because we wanted to create an archive for treasured materials in the parish, and we needed a safe for that, and they came up with 6,000 that was needed to go to a safe that actually should have cost 3 times that, but we got a very good deal on it. And now we're comfortable now that if anybody gives us any literature, old books, old pamphlets, any letters, old letters, we can safely put them away in a fireproof safe, and we never have to worry about them, that they're going to be lost. On top of that, of course, we're recording everything we have anyway into our database, and that information is always going to be available in the future. And a whole lot of people in the parish put their hands in their pockets and came to fundraising efforts and supported them and made donations and talked their relatives abroad into making donations. And then we had some people we were very lucky to meet who gave us very sizable donations. We cannot ever thank enough people like the Comer brothers, who were very generous to us. People like King Ganley, who made a very fine contribution. And I suppose most of all, we have to thank a man from Texas who managed to find, after 20 years looking, that his family came originally from the Glenamaddy area. And Sean Tracy helped us to fund the book for a long, long time, because he had given us the money and put it in our bank account. The money was there, so that when we got to the point, we were going to have enough money to actually pay for the production of the book. Thank you very much, Sean, for doing that. And since that, he's helped us again to do other things. We're now into this famous database for all the extra information that Sean mentioned we have. And that database is going to be an extraordinary facility for accessing information that has been gathered over the last 7 years, that if it wasn't gathered then would never be gathered. And it isn't finished yet. We're still gathering information. But the great thing about it is we have information on families going back not just to 1901, the census where we started our work, but we've connected up with people in Woodford, the Heritage Centre there, and they have information going right back to the beginning of records in County Galway. And we can really produce in-depth reports on people, and we're hoping that in years to come we will turn this area here into a sustainable project, because we'll have information that people will be happy to buy. So that's kind of covering the things the kind of things that people did to help us. But we've now got this building here at the princely sum of rent, annual rent of €1 per year. So like that is just a brilliant thing, facility to have. On top of that, I mentioned that we got help from Rural Development, Galway Rural Development with the LEADER programme, and we got help with the database from the Heritage Council. But if we didn't get the help continuously from all the people in the area, we would have fallen down numerous times. So on behalf of Tom Lennon, our esteemed treasurer, I would like to thank everybody for doing all that they did to keep us alive, and we'll do you proud. Thank you.
The Bank of Sean was always there to bail us out. And he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Well, that's true.
And thanks very much, Sean, who took us out from many spot. And I'd also mentioned John Burke with that as well. John Burke.
Yeah.
And Desi McLaughlin that helped us out with the computers a few times. We had a meeting in our office and Mary, great character, has been a member of this from the beginning, hasn't she?
Yeah.
And we were desperate for money. And she said, well, if someone comes to me in the next couple of weeks and tell me they're giving me a big donation, she says, is it all right that I say yes? Because she said, take it with the two hands if you get it. What it was, John Keneally, who was a cousin of this Sean Tracy, was doing a job for her in her house, sort of a building job. And he said, how's the book going? And Mary said, sure, it's going grand, but we have no money. Well, he said, I know a man who's looking to donate something to Glenamaddy. He's born and reared in America, and he's ready to donate something to Glenamaddy. So Mary said, oh God, yes, that'd be great. So John Keneally sent Mary's phone number to Sean Tracy in America. And Sean rang her. And how much do you want? 10,000 came into her head because she was put on the spot, you know. And I said, okay. And within a couple of weeks, the 10,000 was it fantastic? But that was Mary, all credit to Mary, she put that in.
She's just an extraordinary woman, and the fact that that money was there in the bank, untouched for 6 years, it just kept us going, because even when there was terrible frustration over trying to get information on various families, and then sometimes you had to face a situation where some members of families wanted to give us information and some other members definitely did not want to give us information because we were very private in this family, and the other members of the family, they didn't feel private at all, and they wanted to talk about their family, and they also wanted to find out about their family. But we had that sort of thing, kind of recurring. But the fact that the money was there and there was an agreement at the board level that the money could only be used, when we put it in the bank, that the money could only be used to pay for the book, nothing else. And so then that's why we were encouraged to do other fundraising, because we always knew we just couldn't go near this. And of course, it paid for 2/3 of the cost of producing the book when the book came out. And it was just brilliant. I just want to mention something about Pat Keaveney and his contribution to the book, specifically just to the book. We'll talk about that. And there were so many other areas. He set up our website, which we're very proud of as well. But in the book, there are a whole lot of innovative design aspects which numerous people who've never been in Glenamaddy have admired. The way the mapping is done, the way the book is laid out, the way the individual 50 townlands all have their own space, the way the families of the townlands for that townland are all together, the way the connections where they have cousins in other townlands can be identified. So I just want to acknowledge that Pat's contribution to what you see when you open the book is just massive, and to say thanks to Pat. There's one other person we all want to say thanks to, and she's Helena Clark. And we just simply say that Helena has helped us for over 4.5 years on a voluntary basis, 4 days every week, because we're so proud that she's happy to be with us still. And she's one of the many people, again, that we just want to say thanks to.
Mary Donnan, a very important person.
Produced some fantastic photographs there on the cover of the book.
Beautiful photography, yes.
She did the photography of the book, she did the photography for presentations that we had at different times, or nothing. Continuously, if somebody came up and did something, or somebody supported it in some way or other. And it's marvellous what has happened, and what has continued to happen, even though nowadays, in this day and age, 2020, we are experiencing less and less voluntary effort. But that book was marvellous from listening and watching and seeing volunteers working towards each other, for each other.
It's only lately when we put together a list of the key heritage sites in the parish that you realise the treasures that we have here. And a lot of that information might have been known to people when they were younger in the parish, but they've forgotten about it now. And there are a lot of younger people today who don't know that we have a 5,000-year-old megalithic tomb in this parish, and a very good one, according to the heritage officer, which he saw, a very good one. We also have a church, the Boyounagh church, which was in existence in the 1200s, and it was burnt down in the 1200s. And we needn't doubt that that happened, because it's recorded in the National Library or in Trinity College by the Four Masters that Boyounagh, the church in Boyounagh was burnt down. And then we have megalithic standing stones, not very far from where we're all sitting here. We have a famous crannog with a castle that housed a family which was really important. They were the kings in this area for hundreds of years, the Cuncanons. There's still some Cuncanons in this part of the country, but not too many. And we have a particular a dolmen as well. And the kind of things that we have, we've done something about creating a little video lately on one of them, which is Loganathan, because around the country you have all these mass rocks, but the Loganathan is amazing because it's actually, the mass was held there, but it was because it was a tree. The central point was a tree there, rather than a rock, which they normally are. And there's the lovely little video made, if anybody would like to see it, and there's a lovely Irish poem that was written to commemorate events surrounding that and involving the death of a priest who came quietly to say mass but didn't get away, and so on. And information on the heritage sites in the parish is going to make everybody from here really, really proud. And that's one of the reasons why the book is so good. To tell the truth, we learn so much, not just about the families and our returns in the families, but we learn so much about our ancestors and what they did from the sites that exist in the parish. Wonderful.
I'm going to say this is about the night of the opening. One of our finest workers in it, I forgot to mention in my speech, and that is still bothering me.
Of course.
Cameron Huzikova. She was a Trojan worker in it, and I mentioned everyone in the committee that night. Everyone. And I forgot to count. Oh, I still feel so bad.
There was over 250 chairs put down And 20 minutes before the launch, all the chairs were full. Afterwards, the group continued to come in, and we estimated that there were 500 people in that hall at the launch of the book.
It was a fantastic night, I must say. I really enjoyed it, and we sold a lot of books that night, and everybody enjoyed it. I think there was such a good atmosphere.
America, England, New Zealand, Australia, and Brazil on Thanksgiving for copies of the book. Because that's what I did. I sent them out to friends, and they thought it was fantastic.
She rang me one night. She said, I was like a little girl, she said. I was picturing all these villages, she says, and I was sitting on the side of the road, she said, and it was just all coming to me, she said, you know, when she was reading it, it was just like walking up the road.
It only arrived to us hours before the launch. We hadn't seen it, only what we had done.
Literally hours.
That's right, hours before the launch. And was it going to be all right, and how was it going to look, and was it this and was it that? And all of these questions we had no answer to. And they got out of the boxes and we looked at them and said, oh, that's the book. And that's the way we were, with excitement as well as everything else. And one of the features and aspects of the book is not only the heritage of it, but the way it has linked people all over the world. You know, it's amazing. This fellow rang me from New York and he said, Sean, you sent me 5 copies. I gave them to my brothers and sisters, and all they could do was cry because it was so meaningful for them. So it has more meaning in more ways for more people than we ever thought.